speak slowly.
Okay.
Okay, I get excited, I speak very quickly, and I'll try to speak so I'm not in this way. This thing does not want to change. That's okay, I do it by name. You can see my name there, and yes, this is a strange connection. I talk about tourism and astronomy and astro. For example, in Cape Town, in Sutherland, they track about 150,000 people a year will drive to see the largest optical telescope in the southern hemisphere. So they will attract a substantial amount of people that will go to Newtown, Sutherland, which now has more coffee shops per capita than Cape Town. So it has bed and breakfasts. So there is a real economy called astrotourism. It does exist. And it's very localized. It's localized to the observatory itself. But I think what I'm trying to present today is something a little different than that. And I'll tell you why. When you want to build an observatory, they typically are in very remote places. And so it costs a lot of money to get there. That's the first thing. And a lot of governments don't have those kind of investment dollars. So to build an observatory, and I'm proposing an observatory myself in geology, I'm referring to building a facility on Kilimanjaro itself. So now you're on a very a protected mountain, a mountain that has a great deal of economic return to the economy of Tanzania. So we have to be very careful that we don't in any way corrupt that. And in fact, we want to grow. So what I always tell people all the time, there's always a solution, it just costs. And this solution costs. It doesn't cost the Tanzanian government, it costs investors. So we're going to try something very different. And the reason why I even have these discussions is, when I left astronomy about 19 years ago, and I did an MBA in entrepreneurship, and then from there I went back and I ran businesses around Southern Africa. And most of my experience at that time was, and most of my interest was in making businesses better. So I would identify new business opportunities and I would find a way to solve problems. So for example, in the Congo, I helped them develop distributed power systems, solar power plants and stuff like this. Astronomy is my real passion. And when they tried to throw me in prison in Angola for doing my job, after I got to leave the country, I decided that maybe I should go back into something a little safer, like astronomy. And so that's what I've done. And now I'm tying the two, business and astronomy, and that's why we're talking about this. But I want to tell you guys something before I start. I actually am standing here today, I can give you the exact date that got me to this site, to visit and give this talk. On the 20th of July, in 1969, at 9:56 p.m., they walked on the moon. And I was a little boy, and I got to hear that, and the next day, they replayed it on the TV at our school. They took all the school children, because it was summer break, and they took us to the school, our local schools. I came from a village of 300 people, and I got to watch them walk on the moon, and I decided in 1969, at 7 years of age, hello, come on in.
Thank you very much, sorry.
We're all late, it's okay. So, it got me so excited I decided I wanted to be an astronaut. Now, I grew up in a village of 300 people with no science background. I came from a family of 14 children. I have 11 brothers and 2 sisters, okay? And all of them were in construction. My dad was in construction. He left school at 12 years of age. So I had no one that could tell me what an astronaut was. I had no idea. But I knew they had to be good in maths and science. And I knew they had to be fit. So I spent from the age of 7, can you imagine, I was 7 years old, I could barely see over these tables, and I spent from 7 till now, I'm still trying to get into the space program. I tried 3 times, I never made it. But in that period, I focused my math, my science, and physical. I tried to stay fit the whole time, and I've been doing that since I was 7 years old. So I'm completely motivated to get into space. That's what I want to do. And that's why I'm standing here today. And the point is, the reason why I'm telling you this is nothing to do with me, my journey. The point is, what are we going to do as educators, as scientists, as politicians? What are we going to do to energize and excite the next generation of young scientists? What draws a child into science? I was out yesterday, and I asked a number of the students, I said, what got you excited about physics? Why did you go into science, engineering, and physics? Why did you do it? And most of them couldn't tell me. They had no specific one event. And actually believe we have to create aspirational moments. And the one thing that's missing in the world is we do not have any more aspirational moments. And it seems that in science, we spend our life telling people they have to be good in maths and physics, but we don't tell them about the need for imagination. So I now teach students, I don't teach them maths and physics anymore, I teach them imagination. So I teach people how to imagine again. I want them to be children again. It sounds odd, but as an astronomer, when I look at 20 students I get every year, I get 20, 30 students for a month, I try to pick the ones that have imagination. And the rest, I let them go into banking. So I teach people to be good bankers, scientifically adept in that. And I think we have to find ways to first off, get them excited about science, and then secondly, get them excited about thinking as children again. And we don't do enough of it. And as I said, when I was 7, that's why I'm standing here. I'll give you the exact time. Before I go on, let me just play you the video or the clip that actually led to me being here today. And this clip is also important. I can find it. I can't see it in my iPad. Very important. Okay, speech. I'll just be short. This is only about 2 minutes long. This is, and some of you may recognize this person. So on September 12th, I was literally only a few months old, 1962. So I'm dating myself. It's okay, I don't mind. And this man, if you can't guess, it's John F. Kennedy, President of the United States. Sorry? When I increase the volume, how do we do that? This is my volume. Here? What?
William Bradford, speaking in 1630 of the founding of the Plymouth Bay Colony, said that all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulty, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. The exploration of space will go ahead. Whether we join in it or not, we mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. Our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort, to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
As you can see, 1056, they walked on the moon. And that's the date that I want to be an astronaut. Just so you guys know. And so my journey didn't start when I was 7. My journey started on September 12th, 1962. So I can give you exact dates. I can go back and I can look when they launched Sputnik. I can find that, and that again. So there's a timeline going stretching way back when the space race began. And make no mistake, the space race was about militarization of space. They were building nuclear weapons, and they had to find a way to accurately get them to the target on the other side of the world. It had nothing to do with going to the moon. So this guy's impassioned speech was wonderful for a whole generation of engineers and scientists that said, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an astronomer, I want to be an engineer one day. And it motivated a small child, in this case he, from a village, middle of nowhere, to go from being, rather than going into construction like my 11 brothers, I went into science. And none of them, not one of them went to university or school. So I was the only one that went to school even. So it was a bit different. Let me go back to this talk. So what I'm suggesting is, let's see if we can do something. Right. And there's something wrong here. So now I've marked it out. So what I'm trying to suggest is we need to create something similar in Africa. Now, for example, in South Africa, they decided to invest in the Square Kilometre Array project. It's the world's largest radio telescope. And in 2006, they put in a bid to host the world's largest radio telescope. At the time, the European Union thought they were crazy. Thought, why are you wasting your time? They laughed at them. They came into the table, they said, here's our proposal to host this telescope in Africa, across southern Africa, and they were told, you guys are absolutely crazy, you're wasting your time, why are you here? And then 10 years later, they were chosen to host 2/3 of that project. That project is $5 billion investment. So that's $5 billion of foreign direct investment into southern Africa, of which actually about 50% of that will actually go into southern Africa. The operating cost to run the SKA is around $500 million a year. So make no mistake, astronomy is not simply science, it's a business. It's a serious business, and it has to be treated as such. But it's run by scientists. And scientists generally have no idea how to raise money, have no idea how to manage facilities, but they learn because they're bright people. Right? Scientists are bright people, we know that. But sometimes you want to actually have the voices of businessmen, men and women. You want to have economists talking. And the more voices you have filtering into a project like the Square Kilometre Array, the greater chance of optimizing the economic potential to the entire community. So as I said to you, I left astronomy 20 years ago and I went into business. I did an MBA in entrepreneurship, and I was happy running companies until they decided to throw me in prison in Angola. And I decided it's safer to go back into high tech and science. And here I am today talking to you guys about something called a millimeter telescope on top of Kilimanjaro. So to give you a brief history of this project that I'm presenting today, it really began purely out of the fact that I worked at the Department of Science and Technology in South Africa, developing lobbying strategies for the Square Kilometre Array project. Okay? While there, I was asked to give a presentation to a visiting delegation from Tanzania, led by Florence Turoka and Dr. Bashir.